There is the reality that in Kenya, what are called conservative funds, or those ones which focus largely on government debt, are outperforming those who are in the aggressive side, who focus on the more risky assets. Is debt restructuring on the table for you? Are we looking at another capital raise potentially? Let's talk about the quality of companies which are listing. How do we sit with the VAT refunds discussion?
Business Redefined is your go-to point for a 360 degrees coverage on the world of business.
Business Redefined. Comprehensive, rigorous, informative.
A pilot with 8 years flying experience was this week charged in court over allegations of forging a KCSE certificate to qualify to join an aviation school. This means that there is no limit to how high you can go even without education. Kuna maboys wenye uni boys wako, but code inasema fai kukatia sister yako. If you're really true friends, why wouldn't you want to be relatives?
Unafeel nkano kukatia wewe.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Untitled Chapter.
Thank you for making us.
Thank you for making us your favorite drive show crew.
National FM, we love you.
Wow! Thank you, people. That's the bankers I'm stitching. I got you good. You want to make cheesy.
Tunajibamba na show yenyu. Muendelee hivyo.
I came to rap it up, do my things.
Thank you for listening to 96.3 Nation FM.
Of course, Antona Obina.
Obina.
Call him taking control.
Mad love, mad respect. Wow, photo.
I run the city.
New Tuzo Yogurt Cup. Size yako, bei yako. Kumbuka Wire C Wire, East African Cables, connecting lives. This is NTV.
Good afternoon to you. Welcome to NTV at 1 on this Friday afternoon. Well, if you haven't seen a particular video that's been making the rounds online, well, the story should bring you up to speed. The National Nurses Association of Kenya has distanced itself from remarks made by union leader Seth Panyako. This is after Panyako made public the patient information of the former chair of the Council of Governors, Wycliffe Oparanya. The president of the Nurses Association says the ugly back and forth is hindering the progress of their issues being addressed.
Support any right strategy to fight for our rights. As nurses, we would like to distance ourselves from any statement that negatively impinges on other people's personal health. As a profession, we hold our clients in the highest esteem as possible, and it is unethical to divulge any information that regard to the health of our clients. It's not right to discuss details of someone's health status, as this is outside our oath of service. As healthcare professionals, we must not involve ourselves in any activity that would stigmatize any ill health or any ill person. We call upon the leadership of the Nurses Union to address the labor-related issues as per the law requires and not outside the brackets of the law.
What say you? Did the union leader Seth Panyako take things a step too far? Share your thoughts using the @NTV Kenya handle on Twitter, and mine is @O Burrows. Speaking of speech, government spokesman Cyrus Oguna says that the government will continue hunting down politicians who engage in hate speech and incitement so that they can face the law. Oguna maintains that incidents of incitement, if left undeterred, will return the country to the dark days of the 2007 post-election violence. Oguna, who was inspecting various national government development projects in Kilifi County, called on leaders to be role models. At the same time, the National Assembly Deputy Speaker Moses Cheboy has condemned leaders who have been using funerals as platforms to perpetuate political intolerance.
Funerals is specific, ni kuenda kuomboleza na familia iliyofiwa. Hatungependa hata sana siasa ikue top priority kule. Natakana ni kuwaomboleza na kuwapa pole. So it is one thing of course that we condemn. I personally condemn. It's not a good thing.
Na serikali imetoa tahadhari kwa wale wote ambao wako na nia ya kuweza kuvuruga amani, ni kwamba watachukuliwa hatua. Tayari kuna baadhi ya wale ambao mnajua wamenaswa, ako kwenye mkono wa sheria na hatua itachukuliwa. Tumeona pia Kisii viongozi ambao wanafaa kuwa ndio kioo ya jamii. Tunawategemea kwa kutoa maamuzi mazuri, tunawategemea kwa kutoa maelekezo kwa wananchi, tunategemea kwa njia ya kuweza kupeana usia. Lakini wao ndio watu wa kwanza kuvuruga amani. Sasa kama wao ndio wanavuruga amani, na sisi wenyewe ambao tunawategemea itakuwa vipi?
A section of peace actors in Garissa County have been feted for promoting peace and security in the region. The government and non-state actors have been grappling with the challenge of the Al-Shabaab militia radicalizing local youth in the northeastern region. Hundreds of innocent lives have been lost in the region as terror groups target security officers, civil servants, and innocent residents. The initiative of recognizing peace actors is funded by the EU and USAID.
What the program was trying to do is celebrate individuals that contributed to peace and security. In addition to that, we held a youth art competition to nurture the talent of young people in the region, and we were awarding the winners of the youth art competition from the sub-counties.
We have a program called Jamii Bila Bala, which actually engages the youth in countering violent extremism. And I would like to thank the EU and USAID for funding this organization to help us, because to counter violent extremism, we all need to come together. We have to bring in the youth, we have to bring in parents, we have to bring in the government and all actors to ensure that we counter violent extremism.
Congratulations to them. Now, a section of teachers in Kajiado County have criticized the Ministry of Education for neglecting far-flung schools, claiming that the quality of education is compromised. Dejected teachers through the Kenya National Union of Teachers Union Rift Valley say that teachers and pupils are undergoing untold suffering. Some of the issues cited by the union as hampering the success of the new curriculum include rushed implementation, shortage of teachers, poorly developed infrastructure, and a lack of support in monitoring books. NAT has challenged Cabinet Secretary George Magoha to visit schools in the interior and get to see the real picture on the ground.
We want the media to be allowed to go to schools so that they can expose the rot in our institutions. And we want to request the minister, CS, whenever he visits Kajiado, and other CSS and principal secretaries, go to the interior where there are issues. Wacheni kuzunguka matao napa, mashule ambaye zina facilities. We don't want that. Go to the interior. You don't even know that we have institutions where our teachers cross the border of Tanzania and Kenya first, so that they go round mountains to come back to those institutions. That we have inaccessible places where there is no internet and there is no network connectivity. And you want teachers to download documents and upload them. The ICT minister must make sure that we have internet connectivity.
The value of coffee traded at the Nairobi Coffee Exchange by the end of January this year rose by 79%. That's a lot of coffee, to 4.7 billion shillings compared to the 2.6 billion shillings traded as at January last year, driven by a surge in demand. Over the same period, the volumes of the commodity traded at the exchange increased by 8.8% to 132,149 bags, and that is compared to 121,447 bags traded as of January 2020. Demand for Kenyan coffee is currently high, especially for the washed premium coffee, which has seen prices surge from $117.4 in January 2020 to $291.91 for the 50 kilograms bag. One could argue that there has never been a more important time at which to wash hands, and the World Bank has allocated the Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation 6.9 billion shillings to implement a conditional liquidity support grant program to provide short-term liquidity support to water service providers. The funding is aimed at enabling the water service providers maintain operations and service levels during the COVID-19 pandemic. The funding facility will be managed by the Water Sector Trust Fund and the Water Services Regulatory Board. The water service providers are expected to use the funds to finance maintenance requirements, pay for regulatory fees, and execute emergency interventions to mitigate COVID-19 where necessary.
Water Fund to date has received 75 water service providers information and has so far approved grant for a month of May to August. So once I get the go-ahead from my board tomorrow and also the nod from the ministry, we will start disbursing these funds right away.
So for starters, immediately after this, like I have alluded to, we'll have a caucus. My counterpart here, engineer, my team and I will have a quick consultation, and we'll be able to agree on the next series of interventions. Number two, already yesterday I did approve a series of regional consultations and engagement with yourselves, so that we don't always have to do things from headquarters. When we come to the regions, it is possible you'll be supporting us in intensifying what has become the new norm now of monitoring projects in terms of their performance, in terms of their status, in terms of gaps, and coming up with joint solutions.
Residents of Ole Kasasi in Kajiado East and Kajiado North constituencies have threatened to sue the Kenya Rural Roads Authority over the dilapidated state of the Ole Kasasi Twala Road and the Ole Kasasi Rimpa Road that have led to multiple accidents as well as health complications. The abandoned road projects have also increased insecurity in the area, with motorists and boda riders lamenting the persistent breakdowns they experience, leading to costly engine maintenance.
45-year-old Isaac Mande, a resident of Rangau, Kajiado East constituency, is still coming to terms with his new life on crutches following a grisly road accident that occurred on the night of 24th October last year.
Lakini niliporudi jioni nikapata barabara vile ilikuwa imebadilika na kukuwa na signs of warning. So wakati nilijaribu kufunga brake ilikuwa karibu sana, so ilibidi ni divert nikaingia kwa kikingi ya stima.
It's not just Isaac who's fallen victim. According to locals here, the abandoned Ole Kasasi Rimpa Road by the Kenya Rural Roads Authority has also led to numerous accidents on both boda operators and their passengers, as well as other motorists.
Ukiwa na gari hivi wezi enda, ni kama kazi yetu kubadilisha machuma. Kila mtu anateseka, mama, mtoto, kila mtu. Na hii barabara walituambia ni miezi 3. Kutoka miezi 3 mtaita tukasikia ametoa mashini zake. Sasa tena tunasikia kuna contractor nyingine ameingia. Hana lori hata moja, hana nini. Hii barabara si kama miaka 10 itakaa.
The dilapidated road is not only a nightmare for school-going children whose institutions lie just next to the unrepaired road, but also those who transport them there.
Nikipeleka watoto kitu saa 9 hivi, nimekwama pipe yangu ya maji, imengwara chini, ikatoboka. Tena kingine inafanya hii barabara ituumize, maspring hazikwami kila saa inakatika kila sika. Sasa kile tunaomba ni serikali ituangalie barabara. Kwa kila saa sasa hata wenyewe wanafikiri sisi tunaharibu gari.
Hiyo biashara ukiangalia kama hiyo hardware ama duka. Ukipanguza hivi dakika 2 vumbi imejaa. Ukiona kama hii kazi nafanya, ukipaka paint mlango dakika, yani vumbi ikapa na ukiambiwa mwage maji they don't care.
Sasa unajua unaenda kwa nyumba umejaa vumbi, homa. Sasa inakuwa ngumu sana.
Hata watu wengine wangetaka kutumia SGR hawawezi.
The same script is repeated on the abandoned Olekasasi Twala Road, with incidences of insecurity orchestrated by both robbers and wild animals on broke-down vehicles due to the poor state of the road.
It takes so long to maneuver the road. Anything can happen.
I would just pray that our government really looks into this and really takes care of this. This is a great business opportunity up here.
Affected residents have now vowed to sue Kera for allegedly abandoning the 2 access roads to Kitengela and SGR Ongata Rongai Station. Seth Olale, NTV.
More on NTV at 1 on the other side of this break.
Cabling tips. To verify and authenticate your cables, we manufacture an extensive range of power cables affecting lives.
New Tuzo Yogurt Cup. Size yako, bei yako.
Heaviness and a burning inside, it could be heartburn.
Kiungulia na kuvimbiwa? Ino inatibu ndani ya sekunde 6 na inatuliza dalili 6 za kiungulia. Kwa hivyo unaweza kuburudika bila kikomo. Ino, tibu haraka kiungulia na tumbo kuvimba.
Maji mdosi wangu ametupa simu yangu ndani ya maji.
Mdosi wako kwa sawa. Venye Nkirota ameniambia ajui na akimpigia simu ashiki. Hi! Guy!
For the women who deserve more, Moped is now in Kenya and more than 40 countries. With its nylon-free surface, new Moped has unique softness and up to 100% protection. Your skin will love it.
Thank you for staying with us on NTV at 1. Well, now we move on to another story, and that is to do with the Konza Technopolis, if I'm not mistaken, and the Vision 2030 Delivery Secretariat has lauded progress in the development of the Konza Technopolis project, with phase 1 of the project having attracted over 40% uptake by investors. Well, the Secretariat Director General Kenneth Mwige and the Konza Technopolis Development Authority CEO, and that is John Tanui, say the construction of the National Data Center at the Konza complex is already complete, and that considerable progress has also been made on the development of the horizontal infrastructure. Now, when we say horizontal infrastructure, we mean roads, utilities, and water reclamation. Well, the Konza Technopolis, seen as the best proponent of Kenya as the Silicon Valley in Africa, Silicon Savannah, was gazetted as a special economic zone last year by the Trade and Industrialization Ministry.
Investors to take space which is available here to build residential units, office blocks, to locate their investments in manufacturing. In this location, we are a special economic zones. Now the infrastructure are approaching the completion stage, so your buildings or your investments will be serviced with world-class Technopolis infrastructure, and you'll also be able to access the incentives provided in the special economic zones.
The way government conceived Vision 2030, it's supposed to be 30% government and 70% private sector. So government has set up the infrastructure. As you can see, there's a lot of horizontal infrastructure that has been done. You can see the office block is ready. You can see all the other supporting infrastructure. But my special plea today is to remind Kenyans that 70% of Vision 2030 is supposed to be powered by the private sector. So today, as we speak here in Konza, this is a hot cake for private investors. And this is a message to go out very, very, very clearly. The Kenyatta Avenue of the future, the Moi Avenue of the future, the Westlands of the future, they're all here.
I've seen many a time people post on social media that avocados are big, and avocado farming among pastoralist communities in the Rift Valley could end the persistent cattle rustling plaguing the region. Speaking in Rumuruti, Laikipia County, the Livestock and Fisheries CAS, Lina Jebi Kilimo, asked pastoralists to embrace crop farming since it will increase employment opportunities for the locals. The Hass avocado variety can do well in the semi-arid regions of the Rift Valley, and farmers can utilize the rivers for irrigating the crops. The CAS's remarks come on the heels of a disarmament exercise targeting Tiati and its neighboring counties, where cattle rustling continues to claim the lives of many.
Rumuruti, of course, is just part of the larger Rift Valley. And I think leaders from these communities, the arid and semi-arid lands, can actually come and benchmark what is happening in Laikipia West, Rumuruti in particular, to see that they can actually diversify their sources of income. It is not just the cow that we are stealing from each other and causing mayhem along the way. We can actually start growing this in these dry lands, and we have enough water. There are enough rivers in Rift Valley.
Should they manage to bring an end to cattle rustling, then avocados truly would be bay. BOC Kenya has announced a delay in the release of takeover offer documents, which it had earlier said would be released today. In a public notice, BOC says the delay is to, and I quote, allow for consultations pertaining to certain issues that have arisen relating to the proposed transaction and which impact the takeover documents. The company says it will issue a further update on the status of the takeover within the next 14 days. It is the second extension to provide the documents, with the initial date for their release having been January 25th, 2021. Carbasid Investment, BOC's arrival, has offered 1.24 billion shillings to take over BOC Kenya. Global food prices rose in January for the 8th consecutive month, led by cereals, vegetable oil and sugar, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization, and that is the FAO. The FAO's Food Price Index, which tracks monthly changes in the international prices of commonly traded food commodities, averaged at 113.3 points in January, marking a 4.3% increase from December 2020 and reaching its highest level since July 2014. The FAO Cereal Price Index showed a sharp 7.1% monthly increase, led by international maize prices, which surged 11.2%, reflecting the increasingly tight global supply amid substantial purchases by China and lower than expected production and stock estimates in the United States of America. Tourism now, and tourism at the coast is expected to grow as stakeholders merge to boost travel at the coast. Tourism stakeholders, in partnership with the county government of Mombasa, Jumbo Jet, and various hotels, have come together to make Mombasa County a hub. According to Jumbo Jet acting managing director Karanja Ndegwa, 34 to 40% of their passengers fly between Mombasa and Nairobi, a critical route there, and they have already started a 4-day campaign dubbed Now Travel Ready to sell Mombasa as a destination to potential customers.
Ukunda is a runway that is about to be expanded. Any station that gives you, where you're able to fly about 250,000 passengers, is a route that you need to take very seriously. So we take Mombasa very seriously. One of the other plans that we have for Mombasa is to make Mombasa a hub. Most people don't know where they can visit. If you look up from up country, most people just think about the ocean. But if you are able to go in and show a number of places where people can visit, then people are able to you may stimulate that market and find the numbers growing.
Away from Kenya's borders, and a mammoth effort by Australian firefighters saved homes from an out-of-control bushfire near Perth overnight, authorities said on Thursday. But they warned that strong winds and rough terrain posed an ongoing challenge. Now, at least 81 homes have been destroyed in the blaze at the Perth Hills on the eastern fringes of Australia's fourth biggest city, with surveys of areas burned earlier this week, adding another 10 to the tally on Thursday. Now, Western Australia State Premier Mark McGowan said that the devastation caused was almost too much to comprehend. But after a bleak couple of days, he said firefighters managed to keep the flames at bay overnight as the blaze threatened homes in more populous areas. 7 firefighters have sustained minor injuries, but no deaths have been reported in the bushfire, which has scorched 10,000 hectares since it was sparked on Monday. It comes about a year after Australia was hit by unprecedented climate change-fueled bushfires, devastating whole communities and wiping out billions of animals. More than 3.4 million hectares were burned across Western Australia, and that is during 2019 or 2020. Ecuadorians go to the polls on Sunday to choose between a socialist economist and a fiscally conservative ex-banker to lead a country besieged by deep economic problems aggravated by the coronavirus pandemic. Just over 13 million eligible voters will have a record 16 presidential candidates to pick from, but polls show Andres Arauz, oh gosh, these names, you have to forgive me, Andres Arauz and Guillermo Lasso as clear frontrunners in the race, shaping up to be a fierce ideological contest. Arauz represents the Union of Hope coalition of left-wing parties, while businessman Guillermo Lasso is of the Creole right-wing movement. Arauz is a protege of the two-time socialist president Rafael Correa, who remains a strong political force despite a graft conviction. Arauz has promised to return the country to a socialist path after a 4-year hiatus under incumbent Lenin Moreno, and pledged to disburse $1,000 to 1 million families during his first month in office. He is opposed to austerity measures such as an end to fuel subsidies, which in 2019 triggered the country's worst unrest for decades. Robert Chagulanyi, also known as Bobby Wine, maintains that he will not drop the petition he filed at Uganda's Supreme Court challenging Yoweri Museveni's win in the recent presidential polls. The 38-year-old singer turned lawmaker came a distant second behind veteran leader Museveni in the January 14th vote that followed some of Uganda's worst pre-election bloodshed in years. By law, Wine must prove to the court that any alleged irregularities affected the outcome of the election to a substantial manner, a much higher burden of proof than in civil cases.
We know that, as Dr. King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. It is our hope and prayer that the world will stand with the people of Uganda. It is our hope and prayer that those that deal with Uganda don't deal with an individual, General Museveni, but look at Uganda as a country of 45 million people. The majority of them are young people who want to enjoy the same values of humanity, values like the rule of law, values like respect for human rights, values like respect for democracy. However, we believe in discussion, we believe in talks, but my question has always been, to what end? What are we discussing about? General Museveni's talks has always been about co-optation. His talks has always been asking those he wants to talk to what their price is. And here, we are here representing not just ourselves, we represent an entire generation. Like we were told by those that came before us, that it is only free people that negotiate. It is only free people that discuss, not prisoners. We must speak when we have our full rights, when we have our full freedoms. There's absolutely no way somebody can put their knee on your neck and then say, let's talk. That's not the kind of negotiation that we discuss about.
How do you quantify, what did he call it? Oh, sorry, what do they call it? An election being affected in a substantial manner. That will be an interesting one to look out for. Now, for the sports news and BetKing Premier League action will continue this afternoon when leaders Tusker FC take on Wazito at Kasarani Stadium. A win for the Brewers and coach Robert Matano will see them open a 4-point gap on the log with 26 points, 4 ahead of second-placed KCB. Wazito, coached by Francis Kimanzi, are third with 20 points after having a good run in the month of January. Yesterday, Mathare United played a 1-1 draw against Western Steamer. On Sunday, defending champions Gor Mahia will host their arch-rivals AFC Leopards in the 90th Mashebeji Derby at Kasarani Stadium. And in the Premier League, Tottenham manager Jose Mourinho was unhappy with referee Andre Marina's performance after his side lost at home to Chelsea. Jorginho's first-half penalty, awarded after Eric Dier upended Timo Werner inside the danger area, gave the Blues a win. Coach Thomas Tuchel has now enjoyed 2 wins and a draw without conceding a goal since replacing the sacked Frank Lampard. This is the first time that Mourinho has lost consecutive Premier League home games in his managerial career. Spurs now dropped to 8th place on the log. On Saturday, Aston Villa will host Arsenal at Villa Park as second-placed Manchester United take on Everton at Old Trafford on Sunday. And on Sunday, I beg your pardon, defending champions Liverpool will welcome leaders Manchester City at Anfield.
Here's Werner.
Oh, Eric Dyer,
penalty.
What a strange tackle, and it is a penalty. What on earth was Dyer thinking there?
It's a deserved lead here. It's Jorginho versus Lloris. He's done it, buried it. Lloris went the right way, but it was struck so powerfully and with such placement by Jorginho that no goalkeeper